Unless we got sunnies today, because it's bright. Imagine an infinite labyrinth of rooms, and they're never ending. And around each corner there can be entities beyond your worst imagination. Like this.
And they might give birth to more entities like this.
Whoa! That would be pretty scary. This movie was scarier than that. Stuffing it. Yep, you're going back in the boom. That's what my mom said. The Backrooms movie. I'm gonna try to say something that nobody else has said. Yes, the director, he's 20 years old, Kane Parsons. Yes, he's the original guy who did not take the photo, but he did create the whole series, the whole idea of the Backrooms with Blender. It's very impressive, of course. It's very cool that A24, big studio, came in and gave this guy a budget to make this film. And was it a good film? Already I'm going to tell you, yes, it was a good film. And if you don't like it, I don't blame you. That's what I'm going to be the first person to say, because I don't think anyone's saying that. They're just saying, well, if you don't like it, you just got no taste in film. That's not the case. I understand why you might not like it. This is an A24 film. At the end of the day, let's call it like it is, it's A24. Are they doing something really scary, a little bit of spectacle, that has some kind of deeper underlying theme? Yes, it's an A24 film. Let's call it as it is. The Barbarian, very similar. Hereditary, not as similar, but still A24. I would closely relate it to even Weapons in its own right. The reason I say Barbarian the most though, small cast, smaller budget, kind of a one concept kind of thing. I like it a lot. Very good. Don't get it twisted, although Kane Parsons directed this, I have a feeling that there's a lot of holding hands through this. And I'm not saying no dig at the guy, because I'm sure he did all the important, like the really, direct stuff, the really creative decision ideas. I'm talking about the writing, I'm talking about idea of the Backrooms and all how the visual effects should go. I'm talking about all that stuff. As far as the cinematography goes, it was very good, but don't get it twisted, it's still an A24 film, and it had that A24 sauce. And I'm not saying he didn't create the shots, but if he did, whether he did or he didn't, they still just felt like A24. They felt like the Barbarian. The Barbarian. Whoa. Holy. Yeah, it still had that A24 sauce. So I'm not saying he didn't create the shots, but if he did or he didn't, it still just felt like a lot like the Barbarian. In the oversaturated colors, and it works, like it fits the idea of the film. I'm just saying, I don't think it really broke the mold too crazy there. But that's okay, because the concept was enough, and I think we don't want to overwhelm people. As far as my experience with the film, and I'm going to try to do my best without spoiling this, was that those who have watched it definitely know that it is not a spectacle horror film. There's like this one entity, and it's the big thing chasing you the whole time and whatever. This is why I say it's very thematically focused. But I found that there wasn't a lack of fear, and that was actually a lot to do with the score. The entire time there's always an underlying tension building through the score, and a lot of really heavy bass that kind of just like shook you. It shook you, and it kept going, and it kept baiting you because it kept doing this stuff where it was like, oh, the music's rising, it's rising, oh, what's gonna happen? And then nothing happened, and that's okay, because it kept the tension going, and I felt like it worked. This film did a good thing, which you don't see a lot of these days, because every horror movie seems to be spectacle, with the exception of Weapons. I thought Weapons was good, but even Weapons did this. I'm calling you out, Weapons, and that's jump scares. I don't think this film had a single jump scare. It was all tension and real fear. It's a really hard thing to do these days. It was like 1950 when frickin' Psycho released and people were like shitting their pants when it wasn't that scary. But now this, it's like we're redoing that. It's a hard thing to do. People only shit their pants over Terrifier? But like that's so spectacle, right? So I like to see an artsy horror movie that actually, the horror aspect is not just jump scare. The tension's good, man. It's really good. Now, as far as why people don't like it, for like the Backrooms enjoyers, enthusiasts, which by the way is a stupid thing. It's an internet concept. It's a hard thing to do to build like a niche community around a concept that's been around for only a few years. What do you mean you're like a Backrooms purist? This idea has only been around for a few years, and there's only indie games and images and Blender videos of what it is. Like, how are you gonna be a purist about that? That's so dumb. That's so dumb. So if you're like, oh, well, they didn't have this thing or this whatever, it's like Miku. It's like all Mikus are canon, all Backrooms are canon. What I'm saying is, the angle that they took with it is a good mix. They begin with a very good use of the analog horror thing, or like, and I'm sure I'm probably not using that right, camcorder kind of view style, whatever. They begin with that. Scary, works, builds the tension, sets the tone for the film, so you know that they're tapping into your niche community for the people who care. But they're also taking that time to build characters, and the kind of why the characters feel why they do, and how that kind of reflects on the story later on, which makes sense. You think of the therapist lady, she has, like, obviously her backstory with her mom with dementia who abused her and treated her poorly, and what she kind of kept from that was that one stone with her. Okay, sure, makes sense. And what does that symbolize to her? That she's holding on to the abuse and the trauma, and all of this is tying into one thing, and that's change, but we'll get there. Clark, he complains to the therapist about his trouble with his ex-wife, where he's frustrated that they didn't end up together, and that she divorced him, and how he feels like an idiot for the drinking that he did, the excessive drinking, and how he wishes he could take that back. But he doesn't want to change, because he actually still thinks he's justified. That obviously makes sense. It makes sense. But they take this approach because we can't just have an hour and a half of Backrooms footage. Analog footage. So I think they did actually take a really good route with it. And small cast too, that was a smart idea. To say that they didn't mix in the VHS idea or whatever, well, you're like this big. Like you're this big and you're greedy and you're mean. There's no amount that would satisfy. Even if you did 2 hours of that, people would still complain that it wasn't enough. Because there is no just way that you can have that much VHS footage without either giving some good context with normal cameras, like normal cinema cameras, or just doing a full YouTube episode of just the VHS thing. And then even then, when you include all that and you have that candid feel like that, it is impossible to do that, at least not one shot, without it dragging at least a little. Creep, and the guy from Creep, is in this film. But Creep does that. Creep has the VHS thing, and they do that, and that's fine. But even they cut, and they build that fear and that candidness of it. I like it, but that is not the film I think we want to see. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all that character development, because the camera exclusively belongs to the kid, who dies. Throwaway character. Fair enough. But he can't be there for when Clark is going through what he's going through. He can't be there for when the therapist is going through what they're going through. And we're not just going to stay in the back rooms for an hour and a half and do nothing. There has to be some kind of driving plot where we discover the back rooms, what happens in the back rooms, what we're trying to learn about the back rooms. And then now comes the ending. Well, people don't like the ending. Why do they not like the ending? Because she has her kind of happy victory. She gets out, and she has to stay there now to help research what it is. But there's some subtle things that are kind of clever with this. I won't go too into it. One of which is the idea that the company that's studying the backrooms is also the ones that study MRI machines. And for those who know, MRI machines, when you scan things, they can get messed up. This might explain the entities and why they're a little goofy. This also might explain why Clark, Pirate Clark, is the most detailed, most normal looking one with blood and flesh, because it's had the time to scan him and see all the details, because it's all there. He's been there for so long. He's the only thing that the Backrooms has been looking and morphing to work with. Just a little sauce. Now, as far as the ending goes, she was accepting change, and now here she is, in my own eyes, accepting change. Overall, I think the film couldn't have done better than it was, as far as a Backrooms film goes. They're talking about a second one. Sequels are tricky, I won't say anything, but sequels are tricky. As far as this film goes, I don't think it was very bad at all. I'm feeling a strong 7.5 to a light 8. As far as Kane Parsons' ideas, it was very good. As far as the production, it was very good. And for the measly budget of $10 million, as measly as that may sound, yes, it is small for Hollywood, it was very good. I would not go see it again because I don't want to shit my pants. The bite sounded like an apple. Watch it back, it sounds like an apple. This is real footage from the Backrooms. This actually happened.